but we are going to now talk specifically about pricing strategy and competitive pricing strategy. This is a big one for some industries where you may not have realized like, oh, why did our Black Friday promotion fall short? And it's like, well, our direct competitor actually was 5% cheaper, and that's where everybody went. So there is a real big risk when it comes to pricing, and not everybody's a discount brand, and not everybody is going to be in a direct price war. I'm actually thinking about an old client of mine in the wig industry where it was extremely competitive, and if you knew the competitor's pricing strategy, you just had a huge leg up. So Burc, let's talk pricing strategy. I'll just and how we need to maximize profit and maximize customers using us and minimize customers going to our competitors. Give me the secret formula, because this sounds like a very delicate balance. And if we can get it right, we can make a real impact on profit and margin.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks a lot for the introduction. And I also would like to thanks to Max, who actually wrote about this session on the Q&A box. I think I have never been requested, like this one in advance, when does Buch come on stage? I think I felt quite a little popular, but I think it's not because of me, but it's just like you said, it's just because of the importance of the topic. So shall I just simply share my screen, or are you going to?
Yeah, absolutely. Share away. And I agree completely. This is a topic, it's not always the sexiest topic, but it's sexy in the fact that it can really impact bottom and top line. And the same way that I was getting really excited about financing, I'm actually really excited about this session.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So let me get started first of all with my introduction, maybe. So as you guys have maybe read on the introductions, my name is Buch Tanner, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of this lovely company called Pricing, which is in essence a competitor price tracking plus a dynamic pricing software company for e-commerce companies of all sizes from all around the world. So as of today, we currently serve about hundreds of e-commerce companies from more than 50 countries, from the US, UK, and the majority of Europe, etc. And today I would like to talk about this, really serious subject, and maybe sometimes unsexy subject of pricing strategies. And I would like to tell you how to avoid being priced out throughout this holiday season, namely during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So like the previous presenter mentioned, there are still 10 weeks to go till the holiday week, let's say Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. But I believe, and we all, I think, all feel and see that the holiday season is already here. So particularly, for example, some major US retailers announced that they will be closed on Thanksgiving. So this is, I think, a really, really big news about increased importance of e-commerce, not only for these major retailers, but I think it's also a quite promising news for those small and medium-sized e-commerce businesses, because if those big guys are shouting out to their shoppers and saying that, okay guys, come to our e-commerce websites instead of our stores, it also means a potential traffic to you, because they are actually generating a wider demand for e-commerce. So that's I would say a great news for all of us. So Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and all these major retailers are simply going to be closed, and they will be driving traffic to e-commerce, which is something really specific to this holiday season. And I think it's not really something to do with their marketing strategies, etc., but they were simply forced to do so, also because of this pandemic situation going on throughout the world. And also another relevant news was actually announced by Walmart. So they simply directly started to compete against Amazon. So they were obviously competing, but with their launch of Walmart Plus, they are now a direct competitor to Amazon Prime. So it's also, I think, going to be a big thing to follow throughout the holiday season, because I think it will mean a lot of steep discounts for shoppers in the US. And also, I think, the major aspect that we would all really need to keep in mind for this holiday season is that it's really going to last quite a long time. So it's not really going to be starting on around the end of November, I guess, because all those retailers, like I stated above, or the ones that we don't see in this list, simply stated that their holiday sales will start maybe throughout October or maybe early November, instead of just at the end of the month in November. So we feel that this holiday season will last longer, because it will eventually start early on. So we shouldn't really only plan for the last week of November, but I think the holiday season, it might be a two maybe bold to state that, but I think the holiday season is already started, guys. So obviously, if it's the case, so what we should really expect to see throughout this holiday season? I'm just trying to say that it's going to be different, it's going to be special, etc. But what we really should expect to see, and what we have been actually seeing in the last few years' time. So let me try to give some information around that. So obviously, like needless to say, we are going to see some steep blanket discounts, which means an opportunity for all those sellers across the world who really wants to get potentially some of those old, months old stock. They just want to clear their inventory. But I think like in this economic situation, in this economic, let's say, turbulence, price sensitiveness has a different meaning from a consumer perspective. I really expect, and we actually started to see that from our customers who are using our software, really in firsthand. So I think today's consumers are way more price sensitive than the consumers of the previous holiday seasons in 2019, 2018. So we should really expect to fulfill such a customer base in this year's holiday season, because I think one of the most dramatic aspects of this is that loyalty is almost dead in this holiday season, because this is what we have been also seeing in the last few months' time. So I think reviews are really relevant just because of that. I mean, in the previous section, I think they really matter a lot to at least save some of that potentially like missing loyalty in the coming months. But shoppers are really ready to try new brands more often than before, because simply they might get attracted to those better deals across their competitors. So just to give you some stats, I mean, to really maybe clarify what I'm talking about in this boosted price sensitiveness plus missing and gone loyalty. So namely, specifically, like more than 70% of American shoppers just simply stated that they will see a cut in their holiday budget this year. So this means that they will be really picky in their purchase decisions. So maybe instead of going to their favorite channel, they will be picking a product from a really brand new channel which offers the very same product at a better price. And also more than 1/3 of those shoppers said that, just like I said, they are ready to shop from new brands, new channels, etc. So they really don't really care about loyalty this season, but because they have a limited budget to be spent really cautiously. And also more than 40% of shoppers really explicitly stated that they are less loyal to brands they like. I know that this is not the greatest news that you were expecting to hear today, but I mean, embrace for the impact. That's really what I'm trying to emphasize. So then, obviously, if we come back to if we get started with the subject of today's presentation, how then you really not get priced out in this turbulence? So my intention today is to share some just really brief actionable tactics, and I would say more high-level tactics that you should really digest and maybe analyze further, and then turn them into potential executions, maybe by asking help from our side, or maybe asking help from different vendors, freelancers, etc. So I really want to offer some maybe mind-opening, let's say, high-level strategies today. And the first one is obviously might be a little biased, but it's about really watching the market closely, because just like Derek said in the beginning, I mean, it's really common to see the mistake of the retailers that they simply spray and pray. I mean, they for example, now we are around at the end of September, maybe let's say early October. So the majority of those small and medium-sized businesses, or maybe enterprises, have just simply started to prepare for their holiday campaigns. They maybe already set their holiday, let's say, discounts, price lists, etc. And they expect to launch them maybe on the last week of November, and they will simply set them up, and they will just watch the results at the end of the week. So this strategy was already invalid, I would say totally irrelevant in today's dynamic market, but it's really going to be way more dramatically irrelevant in today's market, which is, again, full of cautiously price-sensitive shoppers who are no longer really loyal to your brand. I mean, don't assume that they will come back to your store this year because they just visited your website last year. So this doesn't longer hold true. So because the reason why I'm trying to emphasize the monitoring capability as important is that one day's lost opportunity in holiday season means a lot of lost opportunities for e-commerce companies. So if you, for example, again, like Derek said in the beginning, if you think that you set your prices really attractively and you just expect to see a lot of traffic driving in and converting into sales, etc., but you just forget to, you just actually don't have the capability to monitor your competitors' reaction or maybe like proaction against your attractive deals. If you don't have any idea about that, you just simply spray and pray, and maybe without even spraying, you just simply sit there and pray. So you cannot really, I mean, this is really the common sense. You cannot really make sure that you are offering competitive deals. I mean, competitive is obviously something relative. So you are really not competitive if you have another one who is more competitive than you. So if you don't ever know anything about the market prices, about your competitor prices, you can't really claim that you set your prices right, you are ready for the game, you are really attractive this holiday season. So this is not valid. And also, I think this point is the most important point that I really would like to emphasize today. This falls also into a lot of, let's say, discussions for our sales calls, etc. So people really tend to think that, I think this is absolutely common sense, and it's fair to understand that in first thinking. So people really tend to think that if they track their competitors' prices, they will always be driven to a race to the bottom. But this doesn't really necessarily hold true in all cases, and in the majority of the cases, I would like to say, because they really can't know if they are really leaving money on the table unless they are really watching the market. So in the majority of the use cases of our software, which is again a competitor price tracking software, our customers notice that their prices are way too cheaper than their competitors, because their utmost intention is to attract customers with really attractive deals. So they just discount their products, maybe like they slash their prices with 20% discounts, 25% discounts, without any guidance from the market. But eventually, if they start to get that intelligence from the market, if they start to gather that competitive intelligence, they notice that they actually are mistakenly way too lower than their cheapest competitor. So in that case, you particularly simply leave money on the table, because if you increase your prices maybe by like 1%, 10%, no matter what, you might still keep that cheapest price position. If, I'm just trying to emphasize things really dramatically, and you can still keep that minimum price in the market, which will drive that utmost attention to your website, utmost traffic to your website, but you will really help your bottom line with every single sales that you will be making. And e-commerce is simply about all these small gains, tiny profits, etc. So just to emphasize that part, I mean, I would like to give a particular case from our beloved customer Orami, who are based in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia. They are one of the major e-commerce retailers out there. So I think they are unique. Their business case is not necessarily unique, so it can simply apply to some of you guys listening, or maybe the majority of the market might actually feel close to their case. So without any automation in place for competitor price tracking, they were simply relying on manual tracking, because I think it's even wiser to track competitor prices manually instead of not doing them and not doing so. So we really like customers who are already doing some type of competitor price tracking, and they want to switch their game into a more automated solution than the ones who doesn't really know anything about this competitive intelligence. So their case was simply the case where the customer is just doing this manually with 16 people. So they simply had a team of 16 smart people sitting in front of their computers, laptops, or whatever, and manually tracking their top products, competitor prices on a daily basis. So they really needed to have this intelligence in order to make better prices for their top products. But this simply impeded their growth, because they were only able to, fine-tune their pricing strategies for their top products, but the long tail strategy was totally, not existent. So they didn't really have any pricing strategies, maybe competitive pricing strategies for the majority of their assortment. They simply focused on the top markets. And just because of that, I really wanted to quote their head of product, Aditya, because he, I think, explains the importance of this issue that I say is leaving money on the table way better than me. So I really would like to directly quote him here. So I'm just going to read this text out loud, which you can also do, but I really try to emphasize what he's really talking about. So he says, we are now also able to see the products where we are unnecessarily cheaper than our competitors. And this really helps us increase our prices by still staying the cheapest one, which means an increase in our profit margins. So competitive pricing intelligence, guys, is not necessarily a race to the bottom, but instead, if you look at that from another point of view, it can really help you to increase your profit margins by just not leaving any money on on the table. So I think this is the great explanation of a let's say of a person who really solved that pain in an automated way. So another tactic that comes after tracking competitor prices is, again, referring to the spray and pray strategies. So please, again, don't rely on static holiday price lists, guys. So don't plan for your holiday campaigns 1 week, 2 weeks, or I don't know, like 10 weeks in advance and set them live when the time comes. Instead, like decide on your initial price list. So obviously you will need to crunch some data in order to set your initial price points to start to kick off the holiday season. But make sure that online prices change way more frequently than, I don't know, than you check your iPhone during your Zoom meetings throughout the day, or maybe more frequently than you have been checking your phones while I was speaking. So they really change absolutely frequently, I'm trying to say. So if you consider that, and if you set your prices just statically in the beginning of the holiday season and just leave them as it is, your competitors will simply react against them, because they will also, they're just like you guys. I mean, competitors are kind of the exact same animals like us. So they will be also trying out these new tactics. They will be setting up their pricing strategies, etc. And all these will eventually conflict in the market, which is an open market, which is visible for all those shoppers out there who are actually like ready to pick the most attractive one, really explicitly. So they will try out new tactics, new strategies. So you will need to have some flexibility to respond to those changes in the market. So don't stick with the same prices for too long, and don't ever set your prices in the beginning of your holiday season and expect to receive the results at the end of the holiday season. Instead, have some room for flexibility of price changes throughout the holiday season. And again, like the first two aspects were more linked to pricing, but I really would like to tell that inventory and more specifically stock availability is also kind of a pricing strategy. So because unless you have stock in your assortment, your pricing is actually non-existent. So actually stock is a multiplier for your price points, eventually at the bottom line, at the top line of your like accounting tables. So from a competitive standpoint, if a competitor goes up stock, guys, this is actually your profit increase opportunity. This is your golden moment, I would say. And this really happens a lot during those hiked up demand times, because you know the competitors, your website as well, are going to see a lot of demand for particular products that might really go out of stock, and that might turn out to be a lost opportunity of sales in the coming days of the holiday season. And it might, you know, in the worst case, it might even be a turnoff for the consumer, who might become a loyal consumer to you maybe after the holiday season. And actually this aspect of potentially increasing your prices by, I don't know, $1, I don't know, $2, 1%, 2%, in case of an out of stock situation at a competitor means also a lot of potential to you. Because don't forget, like I said before, e-commerce is all about tiny profits. I mean, like the person presented before me, they are all trying to add up 1%, 2% on top of your bottom line, top line. I mean, nobody is really going to crack a way for you to, I don't know, triple, quadruple your sales in one day. But we are all different, you know, parts of your e-commerce puzzle who are trying to add up, I don't know, 5%, 2%, 3%, which will then eventually stack up to, I don't know, a double, triple of your existing sales results, I guess. Another element of this supplier, let's say, perspective, inventory perspective, is also kind of keeping in mind that your suppliers are also in your pricing game. So they're actually also one of the drivers of your pricing strategy, because after all, the prices that you set for your products are priced on top of a certain purchase price that you pay to your suppliers. And also it's linked to your stock availabilities, because unless you buy stocks from your suppliers, you are, you know, immediately and by default out of stock. And keep in mind that, you know, this holiday season is going to be a busy season, busy month for all those suppliers as well, because they are going to supply the same products to you and to your competitors eventually. So please order what you need in advance. And while ordering them, please utilize all those open source like public tools like Google Trends, etc., to keep track of the popular products across the market today, and also try to have an idea of what will eventually sell the most on Black Friday. For example, home entertainment has been, you know, stated tons of times. So make sure that you are in contact with your potential like home entertainment product supplier before I don't know, October, etc. Make sure that you will have those desired amount of products in your website ready to deliver to this increased demand of customers. And also, if I link this to your pricing strategy, this is also one of the really smart tactics that we recommend to our users, because again, like I said, I mean, when you use a software that helps you to track your competitor prices, only maybe in 10%, 15%, 20% of the cases, we help you to decrease your price to a certain level. In the majority of the cases, we help you to increase your prices to help you to increase your bottom line and top line at the same time. And another potential valuable action that comes out of this intelligence is actually using this as a bargaining power with your suppliers, because I'm sure that you have seen a situation where your competitor is charging a particular branded product at a lower price point than your purchase price. For example, you pay $100 for a internal cost of a product to a supplier, and you see that product sold online at a competitor for $95. So we never tell you, we never recommend you to decrease your price to $94 in that case, but we let's say implicitly recommend you, tell you to contact your supplier, because in that moment you should notice that that competitor who charges that product at a lower price point than your purchase price that you pay to your supplier, you should directly call your supplier. Maybe just keep calm and just discuss this in the next meeting. But as you can understand, I can't really keep calm all the time. So you might just simply call that guy, or you might wait for the meeting, and you can simply show the data to the supplier and tell him or tell her that you know that that supplier provides that product at a cheaper price point than you, and bargain better. So get that price like that competitor does, or even better, so that without changing your prices for a single bit, lower your costs by just simply using competitive pricing intelligence. And also, please do this responsibly. So again, like you at a certain point depend on your suppliers, keep that relationship warm. It will be also busy for them, so order what you need in advance, but also make sure that you have a good bargaining power when it comes to cost of the products. So the last part that I'm going to emphasize is kind of going to be a cliche, but I also interestingly noticed that this is not that widely used across small and medium-sized e-commerce companies. So there's a product category that we like to call as loss leaders, guys. So imagine that you have a product which is really popular online, so it really might drive a lot of traffic to your website, and it might actually help some less loyal customers to visit your website for that particular popular product. And eventually, if the lucky situation goes, they might eventually bump up into another profitable item that you would really like to sell to those new visitors. And then by adding up these two loss and profit situations, you might eventually get a profit in total. So loss leaders are popular products that are sold below than your cost, just to attract shoppers. But here the assumption is simply thinking that those traffic, those visitors will also eventually convert to a more profitable product category. So again, like it sounds, it might be a little risky, but it might really result really positively if you really have everything under control. And just to also explain the risk in that, I mean, in the worst case scenario, again, if you are not really selling any profitable items along with the loss leaders, you will be not eventually covering the loss. And also to mitigate this risk, I have a really simple, let's say, guideline. So obviously the first one will be starting small. So just maybe starting small means just picking one single loss leader, depending on your product category, and just marketing that. And by marketing, I mean test out comparison engines like Google Shopping, etc., just to drive tons of traffic to that loss leader, and use potential recommendation engines, recommendation tools, etc., to recommend relevant, profitable products to that newly generated traffic from comparison engines. And also to start small, I think this might be relevant for all the strategies that I'm trying to emphasize here. I think this week, or maybe the one after, might be the best time to experiment all those potential strategies before the holiday season, because we still have 10 weeks to go. It's almost the time. I know I was actually in the beginning talking about a rush, etc., but maybe all these pricing strategies, unless they are already utilized, might be tested out in the coming 1 or 2 weeks time, and see whether loss leaders might make sense for you, see whether competitor price tracking might sense for you even before the holiday season. And believe me, if it makes sense today, it will make way more sense throughout the holiday season. So also, like I said, testing before investing in is the most relevant strategy. And again, I want to emphasize this comparison site aspect because interestingly, I noticed that these channels are not really utilized widely throughout the holiday season. So if you pick a loss leader for which you would like to drive traffic, please use Google Shopping, etc. All those engines that simply rank you for your price. So if you are the cheapest, you ranked on top, and try to drive traffic to your website for those products, and then show relevant product recommendations to this newly generated traffic. So I really thank you for everyone who was watching this live or who will eventually watch this maybe via replay. As far as I know, this is also an option. I just want to go through the tactics that I just went through just once more, really quickly, if Derek permits. So I was actually talking about the importance of competitor price tracking because the market is absolutely dynamic and it's really going to be way more dynamic than before throughout this holiday season. And unless really you have any competitive intelligence, you can't really claim that you have competitive prices or you have profitable prices because you are simply isolated in an open market, which doesn't make sense at all. And the other tactic was simply trying to tell you that you should not really set your prices statically before the holiday season and expect the results to kick in. Simply focus on your pricing strategy as a dynamic subject throughout the holiday season. This might mean working throughout the holiday. I don't know how you manage that, but I really believe that it will pay off after the holiday. You might make another holiday after the holiday season. I don't know, but really have room for flexibility. And again, consider stock availabilities as part of this pricing strategy, because if you also monitor your competitor stock availabilities, you might notice some price increase opportunities to give you some tiny profit increases, which means a lot in e-commerce today. And again, maintaining good relationship with suppliers will mean you a lot because this will help you not to go out of stock when you really need that stock available during this holiday season. And it might also help you to get a better bargaining power, get a better cost from a supplier standpoint just before pricing those products. So you might actually have better markup just because you use this competitive pricing intelligence. And the last strategy that I was talking about was these loss leaders, which can be utilized in today's context as a potential to attract those like way more price sensitive shoppers who are less loyal to their existing loud brands, etc. These were the tactics that I wanted to emphasize. If there are any questions, I would really like to answer them right away or maybe later on. This is my direct email address. Thanks for listening, guys.
My mind is so blown. First on I think people forget that you should be managing your price based on not just your own inventory, but your competitors' inventory. I think both of them are like, if you know you're about to run out, then price should be going up. That's like a kind of a basic supply and demand law that really I don't see extended to e-commerce very often. And of course, there's some limitations with just changing a pricing like in the middle of a day or something like that for a promotion. And then on the flip side, if you see the competitors have sold out, then yeah, you are the only place to get that. And maybe the discount, doesn't need to be as high, or the promo you're about to send tomorrow can change or something like that. So I think with just those two things alone, people are going to be thinking completely differently about their pricing strategy for Black Friday. So thank you so much for that. I mean, seriously, that could be worth thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue right there.
It is, yeah.
Just those two nuggets. So. And of course, PriceSync is an amazing tool for tracking your competitors, your suppliers, and understanding where you should be pricing products. You definitely want to check them out so that you can have a serious advantage in the market. And I would say the more competitive your space, the more this tool will pay off, but it will work for anybody, any established e-commerce business that can think about how they might be changing, manipulating prices. And like you said, negotiating with your suppliers. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Using what you know to say, look, like we really got to compete. Like you can use it in so many different ways, just being honest and saying, I've got to compete with their price point. And I feel like you're, selling this to me a little high. It's going to hit the margin. If you go down just a little bit, then we can both sell more product. And so moving the kind of the fault to them. That's amazing.
By the way, this was not really my recommendation to a customer, but that guy just invented this idea, and then we started to use this as a marketing, let's say, strategy. We just started to sell this out as well. So I love it. Customers also in some way invent features on behalf of you, which I really love.
I love it. So you got a positive customer testimonial to let you know how they used your tool, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, we have a whole different use case category
yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah,
That's
that's totally
amazing.
right.
And yet again, you're doing something really unique in the market. So I'm really happy to have you here and
Yeah,
proud
yeah,
to kind of
yeah.
represent the tool.
Thanks a lot. I mean, all these like the Wiremo guys. I mean, they said the importance. They spoke about the importance of reviews, etc. And they kind of gave a high level strategy about review management. And just like they said, all those strategies that I just highlighted here can be automatically managed with our tool as well. Because I try to emphasize the competitor price tracking aspect of the tool here. But all these, let's say, dynamic price changes, etc., can be also done with the software because you can simply define particular price rules like I want to be 1% cheaper than the cheapest of my competitors, but I still want to have $10 of markup, and the tool will automatically adjust your prices. So for those guys, they really won't need to work throughout the holiday, like I said, but they can simply automate their pricing strategies. Their prices will still, change automatically while they're having their dinners with their families, and they will just see the results afterwards.
That's amazing. And this tool reminds me of, like competing in an Amazon or Walmart marketplace kind of setting, and how you're kind of democratizing this perhaps into e-commerce as a whole. And with that said, we're going to move directly into our next session, which is democratizing another crucial component of what Amazon kind of had a chokehold on in the past. And now you'll be able to see how it's applied to your business. So thanks so much, Burc,